Our last keynote speaker, which is Peter Lord. I'll give you an introduction like he needs one anyway. But Peter is co-founder and creative director of Aardman Animations, which he co-founded with his longtime collaborator David Sproxton in 1972 when they were schoolboys. So big round of applause for Peter Lord.
Where's the magic clicker there? Right. Hello. Hello. Lovely to see you all. This is very thrilling. Right? Brought me sandwiches. So hello. I was invited, and I couldn't come 2 years ago, and then couldn't come last year, and begged to be invited again because I'm a big fan. And I've got not much time, and an enormous PowerPoint to get through. But I've also, because giving a talk and doing a PowerPoint demonstration is not easy enough, I'm going to demonstration. Ordinary modelling clay, ladies and gentlemen, ordinary plasticine, English plasticine. So I'll be working on this as I talk, if that's not too distracting for me. So basically, John said it'd be great to talk to the students about how you got started and that kind of thing, a bit of history. And I thought, yes, that's easy. Frankly, that would be a very easy thing to do, but a little bit boring, I thought, maybe. Because a lot of that history is more or less prehistory. It's in the 70s, and I don't want to spend too long in the 70s today. So the first half, the talk is divided into two halves, and the first half is about history, and then sudden violent change of direction, and the second half is going to be sort of behind the scenes on the last film we made. So two completely different ideas there, right? So the classic way to launch an animation talk is with a show reel. So I'm going to show you a show reel. Don't be confused, because it says 42 years of fun, which is kind of about right. Yes, that's right. Right. But then the first frame of the show reel says 40 years, which gives you a hint that it's a slightly old show reel. Okay, but forgive me that. All right. Okay. Thank you. So there's a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun right there. And the point of it really was, apart from skipping down the years, from really our first film to recent days, apart from that, was to make the point that at Aardman today, we do many, many different things. We're very eclectic. We're a very broad church. People know about, Shaun the Sheep and Wallace and Gromit, and of course, they associate us with that. And in there, of course, we saw them, but we also saw TV commercials, the TV series, online stuff, some games, some VR. There was Maya, and there's Toon Boom, and all sorts of different techniques, even a hint of drawn animation in there. So that's the way we've evolved. And was that a plan? No, honestly, it wasn't the plan. It's the way we've evolved, which is to be opportunist and quite spontaneous, and follow the ideas, and occasionally follow the people that have the ideas. And that's a good thing to do. So, at around this time, that's 2011, and that is the crew that made the Pirates film. So that gives you a sense of how many people there are in the studio. Now we have two studios, one which is like the headquarters and one which is dedicated to feature animation. So this is the crew at the feature animation studio, and about the same time. Oh, I see. Yeah, I missed one there. Oh well, there's a whole other crew at the headquarters studio. Which slide I've somehow missed. Never mind. This is a bit earlier. This is when the studio sort of split in half. And I say that not in a bad way. We divided in half so that we would keep the headquarters going, doing the short films and the TV commercials and blah, blah, and also do a feature film, make a feature film studio. So that was the whole crew in, I think, about 1998, I think. And this is a few years before that. This is when we shot a music video for Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer. That was the end of that. We always used to go on holiday in the old days when there weren't so many of us. A few years before that, the entire crew. A few years before that, the entire crew. A few years before that, the entire crew in 1983. So that's me and Dave, and the guy at the end I can't even do this, on the left is Richard Starzak, who's still with us today and currently directing a second Shaun the Sheep movie. I know. Which, I got to tell you, it's like science fiction, and it's called Farmageddon. Bingo! That's box office gold right there. But then one more. Yeah, okay. And then just before that, two schoolboys. I know. Two children, and that thing between us is a film camera. So the first stuff we shot, of course, it was on film. We were still at school, and we sold this film to the BBC. It's not a very good film, really. Thank you. It's not very good, and technically it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Like you can see still on the upper right there, you can see some of the reflection of the cell because it was done the old way, drawn on paper, traced onto celluloid, turn the celluloid over, paint the back, stick it on the table, and shoot it with a camera pointing down. That's how it used to be done, and we did all of that like as absolute amateurs. In fact, can I go back? I should go. Yeah, okay. That the camera is balanced on a thing made of wood with G clamps and stuff. So we built the rostrum, and that's how we filmed it. And what I think is an interesting point is the animation is no good at all. I'm not just saying that. When you get out the hole, terrible animation, very, very poor animation. But I think the interesting thing is it's quite a good story. I mean, you could do that story so much better now. The same story. Yes, you could do it well, but that's why they bought it. And I often wonder, or sometimes speculate, if we hadn't had a good enough story, would they have ever bought this film from two schoolboys, which is what we were? Maybe not. And then maybe our whole career would never have happened. The other interesting thing about that character is he's called Aardman. There's no way you could know this. There's no clue anywhere that he's called Aardman, but he is called Aardman. And we knew that. And so this must be about 1970 or 71, I mean, a long time ago. And back then, we thought that the word aardvark was particularly funny. And actually, I still do think it's pretty funny. And the aardvark, is in fact a South African ant-eating, burrow-dwelling creature. But we thought Aardvark was a funny name. So we took the Aard of Aardvark and the Man of Superman and cleverly combined them. And so that guy's called Aardman. And even though he doesn't eat any ants or live in a burrow or anything like this, that's what we called him. And so when the BBC agreed to buy it and said they were going to give us a check, they said, who shall we make the check out to? And we chose the name Aardman then. So I think I think that alone is just wonderful, because when I see it now, like at the start of a movie, it appears in red on black. Aardman. really powerful, you know, and it looks so significant, but it doesn't really mean anything. It's just, it's not even a joke, is it? It's just, it just amused us when we were 17 or something like that. Now, that was drawn animation, and as I say, I think because the story was good enough, they agreed to buy it. I'm talking about a BBC TV show for deaf children. It doesn't exist anymore, but very, very good show. As you might expect, or if you think about it, entirely visual, so no dialogue. It was all about visuals of all sorts. A lot of animation, film montage, art. It was a very good program. And having got started with the first Aardman cartoon, we wanted to carry on, of course. So we made 7 or 8 more, and frankly, the quality got no better. It was going downhill fast, and you know, one could sense the chill from the BBC. You know, they were not very impressed with what we were doing, and at about this time, very happily, we jumped media into the medium of modeling clay, and then that was great. Then everyone loved us, because for the excellent reason that nobody else was doing it at the time. When we were doing drawn animation, everybody in the world was doing drawn animation, from Disney down, and we were the absolute lowest of the low. You know, we were as the bottom of the barrel. We were. But when we were doing animated with modeling clay, nobody was doing it. Absolutely nobody. And so it was a fantastic position to be in. I say nobody, but the great thing is, I'm making a virtue of this. The great thing is that we would never have got into modeling clay animation had we not seen it done. So this is somebody else's film. I should show you a clip. Nope. Okay. Now, Bobby was very funny this morning talking about how technology has changed. Here's a thing that will do your heads in completely. We saw that on television one day in, I guess, the late 60s on some magazine program. And in the late 60s, if you saw something on TV, you could not see it again. You were not, it didn't happen, which is incredible. Like, in fact, TV used to, or, you know, media used to be like real life. It used to come at you and part, and you could never retrieve it. And so that's the way they didn't do repeats. Nobody dreamt of doing repeats, and there was no handy domestic recording device, so you couldn't see it. So we saw that once, just enough to think, oh, that's brilliant. That's plasticine. What a good idea. And so we built on that idea. So I was going to say stole it, but no, we didn't. No, we built on the idea, and actually, it is a good point, I think, in our business, is that, you know, people are always building on other people's ideas. The number of absolutely original ideas is very small, and it doesn't work that way. You know, you see something, an idea passes on. It's passed on like a baton in a race from runner to runner. So that's a nice way of putting it, I think. So we saw that idea, we took the idea, and we managed to make, well, God knows, we made a whole career out of it, based on it, anyway. So that was wonderful. That was made by a guy called Elliot Noyes. And you know, I'd seen it in black and white in the 60s, had no idea when it was made, looked it up online, took a long time, because what was I looking for? You know, old clay animation or something, you know. I didn't know what it was. And I thought for a while it was actually made by an Italian filmmaker, but it wasn't. And then one day, you know, Googling around, I found it and thought, oh God, that was it. Those images we saw, so familiar. Oh God, that was what I saw. How amazing! Then found the name of the director and was, you know, disappointed but not surprised to find he died, because I thought it was set in the, you know, in the prehistoric past. So he died, and that was a shame. And then I went to San Francisco to give a talk at the San Francisco Film Festival, and I mentioned Eli's film and showed it and credited him, as I always do now. Now I know. And at the end of the show, a bloke came up to me and said, I'm Eli Noyes, I made that, and I'm not dead. And it was true. And they were, and so that was great. And I was so delighted to meet him. In fact, yeah, I haven't got his picture. No, I haven't. No, I used to show his picture at this stage, but as he looked so much better than me, it was kind of annoying. So I stopped showing it. Anyway, so there they are. You know, wonderful, wonderful. He'd done that. He'd only done one film that way. Then he'd gone on to do other stuff. He made experimental animation, and we inherited it. I'm very happy and proud to say so. Another film I want to show you also from the past, because it's fun. This is the film that when I was like 11 or something like that, I saw, and my head exploded, and it was like, I thought it was the most amazing thing ever. So the animation was done by a guy called Ray Harryhausen, and that's a legend, and a genius, brilliant piece of work. And I saw that at the age of 10 or something, and couldn't believe that it was possible to put such images on the screen. I hope that you've all had a similar experience at some time in your early days, seen some film and thought, wow, that's absolutely amazing. I think people older than you would have got it right when they first saw Star Wars, or they first saw The Matrix and stuff like that. Things that were just incredible. Now, alas, I think that everything's incredible, so it's not surprising anymore. But that was fantastic. And Ray Harryhausen, when he was 7 years old, he went to the movies in Hollywood and saw the first release of King Kong, and had the same feeling. Wow, this is the most incredible thing ever. And Ray subsequently worked for the guy that animated King Kong, and his name was Willis O'Brien. Willis O'Brien started puppet animation in America. He started doing it himself in about 1912, 13. So he worked in 1912. He sort of started the business in 1912. He met Ray. Ray worked with him, and then I met Ray. And I thought, how marvelous is that I shook hands with the man that shook hands with the man that created the whole business. That's quite a wonderful thing. However, having showed you that, we never made that film. We never did anything with monsters or dinosaurs, actually, except there is some dinosaurs in Early Man, actually. But for years, we never did that. No, we went quite a different way in this direction with comic animation for kids. With comic animation. So that was more, as you saw at the end, the Kickstarter credit. So he first appeared in 1977, I think, and we made morph episodes for a long time, 20 years, I should think, probably, and then eventually it died away because there was no outlet for it at that time. Certainly not on terrestrial TV. No outlet for short films like that, and so we decided to do a Kickstarter campaign and put it out on YouTube with his own YouTube channel, and that was a great idea. It worked really well. By the way, how amusing! That version you saw is the one that appears to be an advert for Samsung, because the word appears continually, and it's quite embarrassing. We made it. We didn't want to make a prop, because it seemed silly. So we thought we used a real phone and didn't think anything about it at all. Didn't think anything about it. And then when we came to sell it to the BBC, as happened in due course, then we had to paint it all out. Okay, so there's another version of the film where you can't wear it without Samsung in it. And the annoying thing is we never got any money for it. I mean, don't think I didn't even pay for the phone. I don't think so. So this was not product placement. It was just carelessness, I think. So, yeah, we did more for many years, and then, I must time this right, then at the same time we were making short, independent films, adult films, and I'm going to show you a little clip from one of those made using a real soundtrack, because we've made quite a career out of creating films that use naturally occurring interviews or overheard conversations. And this is a fragment of such a one. And this is a fragment.
I think there were 6 of us. Just the father was working. Very poor. I mean, yeah, I can remember things. Poor, definitely. Realising money was the thing. I mean, but I can't really remember no affection in the family. I'd get persecuted for anything at all that went wrong. I mean, it was ever so crooked and warped, I suppose. A real nasty childhood. Because, yeah, I think, you see, there was a few characters in the family who was spoilt, who was sort of, well, loved, I suppose. And I was just stood around watching it all happen. And I was the only one, really, this is as I got on to about 6 and 7, who was doing crime. Who was going out and stealing and giving my parents money. It's called creeping, because the general idea is you have to creep out into the back room of the shop, where the cloakroom is, where like there might be a little safe, cash tins. You have to creep out there, take whatever you could, and then go again, while the older people are taking up the shop assistant's time. But yeah, it was exciting at such a young age. That's why I suppose it was so easy. Because it was excitement, it was just like on the telly. A little thief. A little bit of respect instantly. Even other people who sort of knew you as a thief, they'd sort of come over all friendly and everything. Instant recognition, I suppose. As soon as someone becomes a thief. Yeah, I got left alone. I got my little peace and quiet. I was tricked into believing it was ever so exciting and great, and you grow up to be a big hard man.
So we made several films like that, and I don't have many regrets, but I do regret it's now so difficult in England to make a short, independent adult film because it's really hard to get money for it. At the same time as we were making that, we were also making Morph, and we got into doing TV commercials, which has been, you know, a very lucrative business, and I'm very happy about it, very proud of it. And I'll show you a commercial we did in the early 2000s. So that was directed by Darren Walsh, who subsequently has done all those Meerkat commercials, if you've seen those. So very funny, excellent. Now, yes, just about on time. I'm going to jump to the behind-the-scenes stuff. The first behind-the-scenes clip I'm going to show you is actually from behind the scenes of a film we made called The Pirates, and it's just a compilation of merry scenes, just to show what fun we have at Ardman. What fun we have at Ardman. Okay, we're fine. Oh, yeah. Well, no, forgive me. But I went to Pixar, and you know, everyone knows. You've seen the pictures. Pixar is just the coolest place on earth. You know, everyone's skating around on scooters, and their offices are just like absolutely, completely crazy. Fun. And I said to them, I went there. I said to them, yes, fantastic offices you have here. Yeah, great fun, but you have to make it so because your work is so dull. Because I mean, of course, you know, sitting at computers. You know, I'm sorry. No, just kidding, of course. and in fact, just kidding everyone. As you probably all just work at computers, but no. So that's why you should get into stop motion. See, because it's just a laugh. No, we're just laughing the whole time. Anyway, I wish I hadn't said that now. Never mind. Yep. So continuing the behind-the-scenes theme, and on safer ground, frankly. Nick had this idea to make a film called Early Man, and very early on, he started out with a picture, more or less this picture, of a cave person playing football. God knows why, but it occurred to him, and so that's what he did. And this is one of his first drawings of the characters of Doug and Hognob, okay, the heroes. And it's interesting to compare them with the finished puppets, which I have here. Visual aid. But actually, the point of it was quite interesting. Like, he started out with that. Great, yeah, very, very funny design. And when you stop to analyze it for a second, Doug's mouth was about here. And this raised the interesting model-making question, how the hell does he move his head? Because if he looks around, his mouth presumably slides somewhere behind his shoulder. I mean, it's unimaginable. So, after building that in clay, we came to a pragmatic decision. So that's the way to design now. So here's the tribe that he designed. Nick loves idiotic characters. I mean, he just does. Wallace is an incredibly stupid person, and so Nick took the chance to make an entire tribe of incredibly stupid people because it amuses him, because it's his sense of fun. Oh, there they are rendered in. There we go. Yes. From the drawing to that. Looks so simple, doesn't it? But it's probably at least more than a year, actually, 18 months probably, because they're not all done at once. They're kind of done one at a time. And the amount of R&D that goes into these things is ridiculous. So we had a large, incredibly heavy mammoth. I just got a series of pictures which just amused me. I should just go through them. To make the mammoth move, it's supported by that bloody great metal rig coming out of its back. Yeah, it's all wound by hand. Quick jump, quick sideways jump to Shaun the sheep. Yeah, and here we see loads and loads of bits of sheep in the model making workshop. Little tragic faces there. More sheep. Then here's a view inside the puppet. So it's not the same as Doug there, but this is Trebor, one of the tribe, and they're all made more or less the same way because they have to be mass-produced. Here's the thing people don't think about. When you're shooting stop-motion film, you've got like 30 or 35 different units, different sets, all set up at the same time. And that means that your lead character, Doug, might be performing on 20 or 25 sets at the same time, simultaneously, on the same day. So you have to have mass production. Yeah. So really this whole business we got into is kind of like, I hate the word industrialization and I hate the idea of mass production, but that's kind of what it is. You take a craft which is very hands-on, very intimate craft, and find a way to make it possible to be done in a reasonable speed. Otherwise, this film that took 5 years, if it was done by a team of, 10 people, would have taken 30 years or something. So we industrialized the process. Here's Jimmy mass-producing teeth. The skin color for various, this is in silicon, because these puppets, Doug here, when you get close up, as you might do at some stage, you will still think, I think, that his face and his limbs are made of plasticine, because it looks like that. But actually, the limbs are silicon with an armature inside, obviously. And the face, the front of the face is clay, but there's a super elaborate skull behind it. It's all very high tech. That is just... So there's armatures being mass produced there. I'm sorry, these aren't very systematic, but because the truth is that I took these while we were still in production, and I wasn't allowed to tweak them or anything like that. So I did it in a sneaky, furtive way behind the scenes. So that is good. So there you can see the puppet Doug in the middle with this little bit of blue behind him, and the brown hunched figure to the right is the animator. That's Joe, giving a sense of the scale of the set. And that's the light, which we did in a very old-school way by projecting light onto thin scrims or veils of fine cloth. This is how we do the mouths. Horrifying. But so basically, I mean, there she is. There's Guna. So when the animators are working, from sort of nose upwards, it is clay, and this is clay too. Down here, all the mouth is clay. But when she changes mouth shape, you gently rip it off. Gently rip off her mouth, put it back in the box, and put on a new mouth, and then just delicately touch it in my hand. I mean, you could do it, digitally, but the animators like to do it by hand. So that's how that's done. What's the next picture? Oh, here we are. Early test. So there's a stage when the puppet's just finished, which, as I said, suggested maybe take 18 months from first drawing to that working puppet, maybe something like 18 months. It's a very slow process. I've lost Morph's nose somewhere. Oh, there. And so that's the animator starting to find, well, having fun in that case, but starting to find the character. Then, when we get into production, we do a thing which some of you will probably be familiar with, and some will be totally alien, is that we act things out ourselves. And the reason is because you've got one director and 30, 40 animators, and sometimes it's like the quickest way to tell them what's in your mind. And Nick Park, particularly, is very good at it. He's very good at doing these performances, which turn into animation very well. So what I'm going to show you now is, in the middle of the screen, we'll see the finished film, and in the corner, you'll see the rehearsals that took place. This is fun. The philosophy is that they're not copying it, okay? Because copying, boring, very, very boring for everybody. But there's be something in there. There'll be some detail in particular that Nick wants. Some piece of timing, some look. He's very good at it, very, very good. So that's how we do it. Now I'm going to show you an early animation test for how that lip sync worked. I've talked about how you rip the mouth off. So here's a typical piece of. Which way does this point? There we go.
No, flower moose champion pet.
That's it, actually. That's it. He's speaking. The joke is he's meant to be a Geordie from the northeast of England, and nobody understands what he's talking about. Now, having seen that scene in the hot tub scene, we saw the end of it. So here it is being shot, and I just love this. What I love is it's total chaos, isn't it? On the screen is what the camera sees. Where is the camera? It's not even there. On the screen is what the camera sees. And all around are the signs of him working. This guy called Steve was doing the animation. And there's a long shot. It lasts 40 seconds, a very long shot. And he was on that set for like more than 6 weeks, I think, just on that one shot. And it's a great shot. the bubbles in the hot tub sort of move up and down. I got the little, I can't remember how it's done, little winders underneath maybe to make the bubbles rise and fall. If you look closely at the hog, his arms aren't attached to his body. They're on the guy's shoulders, but they're not attached to the hog's body. So that it works from the camera's point of view. And I think, what's this one? Oh yeah. So there's Steve, master of his domain, and then he had this wacky idea, which is so silly, that when the hog's arms are moving, because he's doing this, that they should be blurred, and so Steve rigged up this. When he was taking the frame. So, I mean, again, you could have done it other ways. The animators love to do these things, as far as I can see. What's next? All right. Okay, I'm doing this really well. A quick bit of time lapse, which everyone loves time lapse, and it does give you a sense of the scale of some of the sets. That's the best thing about it. I really don't know which way I should be pointing this. That's it. So loads of craft and mess and improvisation and other good things. I'm going to take some questions now, but first, and confusingly, I'm going to jump to somewhere completely different, just to wake you up, because people think of Aardman as like this very, very lovely, warm, family-friendly studio, which is, of course, we absolutely are, but there are people that have other instincts as well. So I'm going to skip over this one. I'll skip over this one and skip to this one.
Bloody marvellous! Good day, and welcome to the Bushcraft Alphabet.
Just thought it was time to lower the tone. So that's by a guy called Tom Parkinson, who's, as you can see, a bonkers genius. Right, now we have a few moments for questions, and probably microphone.
Hello, that was brilliant. Do you have any tips for writing humour? Because you're so versatile. I mean, like from like, I grew up watching Chicken Run, and that's like a fantastic film, but it's so approachable for all ages. Like, any tips for like writing good humour?
No. So, some people are funnier than others. They just are. They just are. But there's a lot of good that comes from collaboration. I'll say that. So like with Chicken Run, very, very funny. So there's me and Nick. We sort of had the ideas together. There was Carey, who was the writer, and he put some jokes in, some especially verbal jokes. And then there's a story artist who are hugely important. And so a really good, funny story artist, or several, is a great asset to the team. And the animators themselves can sometimes contribute jokes right at the end. So it's very collaborative, and keep going. And lots of movies. I mean, it's lots of movies. You keep going back to some sort of gag room, a team of people that kick the idea around and throw in more jokes, because the philosophy is, at the last minute, one more joke is always a good thing. If it is a good joke, doesn't mean anything will work. But gosh, humor is such a intangible thing, isn't it? You try and theorize about it. We never do try and theorize about it, really. No. But I think it's interesting with Nick and these foolish characters that he designs that can make you laugh when you see them, and that's a damn good trick if you can do that. It's unusual. There's one down there.
Just wondering, have you ever, when you're filming a sequence, like animating a sequence in stop motion, like afterwards, were you ever in a situation where you look at how it turned out, and when you looked at it, oh shit, there's like one or two things wrong or off? Were you ever in a situation where you have to start over with that sequence, or do you...
No, that's never happened except every day. I was saying to Bobby, and again, I've got to start apologising now before I leave the building. I was saying to Bobby that, like, in stop motion, it is an approximate art. I think it just is. As a director, I think honestly, there's 10% of the shots that come to you that you think those are brilliant. That is perfect. And there's 10% where you think, no, that's never going to work. That's not acceptable. And 80% in the middle of varying degrees of compromise. I mean, that's the truth. I think it's just the way it goes. It is not an exact science. And we sometimes, especially in the early stages of production, we have time to do rehearsals, so that's helpful. Yes. But no, it's really difficult. And then the funny thing, having said that, which I hope that didn't sound too pessimistic, but that thing about only being really pleased 10% of the time, and the shot comes back, and I think the truth is, as a director, there's something that you wished would be there that isn't there, something you thought about that isn't there, and that makes you sad. But then, by the wonders of time, cut it together in a sequence with all the other shots around it, and stop thinking about every shot and start thinking about the way the sequence flows, and then you're much happier with it. Often, I find, and you asked sort of technically, sometimes you can go back now, because back in the day of working on film and working blind, you just had to go straight ahead. But now, if I come in as a director and I see something glaring, it's sometimes possible to say, can you go back 6 frames, or can you go back 20 frames? It can happen now.
Thank you.
Hey, great talk. What and how did you come up with Wallace and Gromit? Because I grew up with that, and it's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, it was entirely Nick's idea. So in fact, I noticed actually that was quite a clever talk I did, because I barely mentioned Nick Park, which is. And in fact, I didn't show any Wallace and Gromit, did I? Except a little fragment. He was at when Dave and I were already quite well established, and just things were starting to look up for us, because we'd done some of those adult films like the one I showed you, a bit of Going Equipped, and that led to commercial work, so we were starting to do pretty well. And then we were invited to a school, which is the National Film and TV School in Beaconsfield, outside London, to lecture there. And as it turns out, we were invited by Nick, and Nick was studying there, and he was doing his graduation film. This will astonish anyone that's doing the graduation film. This will astonish you. Back then, you could keep making the graduation film as long as you could survive. So he didn't get, he stopped having any grant. He had no money, but he kept going like for years. I mean, I don't know, 4 years or something. With no money, but he still had his budget for technical things, processing, neg cut and stuff like that. He had a budget, but no money, and so he was living off the state, frankly, total parasite, and finishing his film at film school, and it was so slow, because he was doing everything. But he was doing Wallace and Gromit anyway. He was doing The Grand Day Out, and we went to see it. And yes, we thought it was very good. I mean, I confess, I didn't think this kid is a genius. But I thought, wow, he's really good. And he had the same sort of instincts that we had, I think, which was that in this room and in 2018, it's going to sound so obvious, but his instinct was towards performance in animation, observed sort of human performance, which then was very rare. Then most animation was extreme and graphic and stuff. So I remember Wallace was trying to design something with his big old pencil, drawing board, and he did a drawing, and then, that's not right. And just that thing, it wasn't subtle, God knows, but this kind of, that doesn't work. He performed it. So he was doing that, and that worked for us. And I can tell you, interestingly, that, anecdotally, that Gromit was designed to have a mouth. Gromit was designed to talk, originally. And the first shot he did was where Wallace uses Gromit as a sawhorse. Yeah? So Gromit is looking pissed off, and he's got a plank on his back and the trestle, and Wallace is sawing through the plank, and Gromit's looking liberally pissed off. And Nick discovered he couldn't get at his mouth because his nose was on the floor. I mean, not Nick's. Gromit's nose was on the floor, and he couldn't get it. So he just made do with Gromit raising his eyebrow in a despairing fashion, and he thought, oh, that works. And then he did a line of dialogue, which was Wallace saying, "We've forgotten the crackers," and take one was quite sort of conservative, kind of almost naturalistic. We've forgotten the crackers, And Nick thought, this is to your point about being funny, Nick thought, well, that's not funny. And then he had another go with this ridiculous coat hanger mouth thing. We've forgotten the crackers, And that was funny. That was funny. And everyone could see that was funny. Everyone knew that was kind of special. And so we invited him to come and join us from film school because he would never have finished that film. He never would. Yeah, those of you that know A Grand Day Out, Wallace and Gromit go to the moon and they meet a gas cooker for some reason. Gas cooker? Yeah. Oh yeah, there used to be a whole other scene. Used to be a whole other scene where there was like a fast food joint on the moon that was full of kitchen appliances that they went to for like 10 minutes, and we kind of decided that it would be better not to shoot that because otherwise he'd never ever finish. So anyway, that's that. Yes. Oh, there's one down here.
Hello.
Hello.
My question is, okay, how do I phrase this? What do you look for in an idea that really makes it stick to stop motion animation over 3D or 2D? What makes something like The Pirates lend itself so well to that medium?
Yeah.
Is it the physical comedy? It's the...
I mean, as I said about animation, I mean, there is no doubt that stop motion is beset with limitations. There are things that are very difficult to do. So that's part of it, stop motion lends itself, it seems to me, to detailed close-up performance, and it doesn't lend itself to, roller coaster rides. It doesn't really lend itself to huge crowd scenes and stuff like that. I know these are negatives I was saying, but that affects the way you approach a story. I was joking earlier on. I'm very proud of what we do, but I do understand that we're kind of specialists, you know. We're in a charming little ghetto of animation. It's not very crowded where we are, and it's just a matter of instinct, I think, and because we do have that discussion quite often. You know, an idea comes up, and we say, you know, should that be stop motion, or does that really want to be CG? And we hope, I hope, and intend to make more CG films because you know, it's a shame to miss out on stories. I've said in the past, and this again, it sounds damning. I don't mean it, but like, you know, like the ideal stop motion character is somebody sitting in an armchair. That's great, you know. They're not walking around, you know, they're just sitting still and, you know, emoting, performing, you know. That's easy. However, I have to say that's not true anymore, because when you saw the behind the scenes, you saw lots of quite elaborate rigs, you know, all sorts of elaborate rigs which were painted out afterwards. So now we have much more freedom to do what you want. I mean, if somebody came to me with a film about a ballet dancer, I would discourage them from doing it in stop motion. You could, but I think it would be fighting the media instinctively. You know, elegance, not so good. You know, and arguably, you choose, but beauty, not so good either. You know, so that's not where we end up.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Right. One more. Just give me time to put on this last eye. One more. Great question.
Hi. I'm considering. I'm thinking of doing some model making films outside of plasticine. Just wondering, what's it like working with different kinds of materials and how they're built and everything?
Well, in puppet animation, most people aren't working with plasticine. That's the truth, isn't it? You know, most people aren't. The guys at Leica in Portland, there's no plasticine in what they do. You know, so. You know, metal skeleton, a good engineered metal skeleton, I have to say, is a great thing. Whatever you're doing, a properly made skeleton is the thing that makes animation easy. With a bad skeleton, puppet animation is really hard. You know, really, I see students that have made their own armatures. They made them out of, you know, copper wire, and they've just used kind of resin for the feet, and they kind of nail them down. And, you know, yes, great. We did that back in the day, but they're hard to animate, whereas a proper skeleton is a good thing. But then beyond that, like the people at Leica using 3D printing, rapid prototyping for the faces, we do some of that. That's an interesting idea. And bodies made of latex, of silicon, of leather, you know, anything, you know, these are all good things, I think. So plasticine is rare, and as I said to you, funnily enough, this guy, well, what is he? 4% plasticine, I'm guessing, perhaps, but looks like it's not. Okay, so I think that's time up. I just want to say, to be clear, that I'm very happy to talk to anybody during the festival. You know, don't be shy, you students. Yeah. Although, please, if you want internships, do be shy. But anything else, I'm very, very happy to. You know, that's why I'm here. So thanks very much for being a great audience.
Thanks a minute. Big round of applause for Peter Lord.